Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're trying to give you a different angle of vision on 26 2nd Avenue Matchless Gifts, which over the course of this next year will be changing. And as we're doing a restoration here to try to bring it back to almost identical to the way it was when Srila Prabhupada was here in the early days. And there's a nice interview on Wisdom of the Sages with Anantacharya Prabhu and Yadunath Prabhu, who are working on the project. And if you want to check that out, and we can put a link for the GoFundMe in the comments. So if you want to help, if you're inspired by the project, then you can help out. Meanwhile, we're just showing you where we love to hang out. Hare Krishna.
It's Canto 4, Chapter 23, Text 9.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 9. Thus the best amongst human beings, Maharaj Prithu, followed that path of spiritual advancement which was advised by Sanat Kumara. That is to say, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In this verse, it is clearly said that Maharaj Prithu, practicing the pranayama yoga system, engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as advised by the Saint Sanat Kumara. In this verse, the words Purusham Abhajat Purushaba are significant. Purusharaba, Purusaraba refers.
No, try again. Purusha Rishaba.
Purusha Rishaba refers to Maharaj Prithu, the best amongst human beings, and Purusham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that the best man amongst all men engages in the service of the Supreme Person. One Purusha is worshipable, and the other Purusha is the worshipper. When the Purusha who worships the living entity thinks of becoming one with the Supreme Person, he simply becomes bewildered and falls into the darkness of ignorance, as stated by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 2.12. All living entities assembled in the battlefield, as well as Krishna himself, were also present in the past as individuals and would continue to be present in the future as individuals also. Therefore, the two Purushas, the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, never lose their respective identities. It's so interesting because when you read Prabhupada's books, and he's very strong on so many repeating points. So, sometimes they say, yeah, you are not your body, but also in terms of bashing the Mayavadis and the impersonalists and all this. And it's interesting for someone who has never thought about that, wasn't obviously brought up like that in any way, shape or form. It just goes up and over your head. So when I was just reading it now, because we're reading, I believe it was in the Path of Perfection, so like a reading group, so this point has just come up as well, so okay, let me think about it. But it is interesting that people who think I'm going to merge into Krishna, or I am obviously Krishna already and I just forgot, or whatever. There's people out there that think like that, but it doesn't. Like those parts of the book, purports, I tend to just read for the sake of reading. I realise because it's just not an issue, Especially, like I said, the upbringing of a Hindu and whatever, they're Krishna. They never taught, there's Krishna and there's Rama, and then you're going to, and you also are Krishna and Rama, you're going to merge. You're actually taught you're going to go to a planet where they exist, So, it's just interesting reading that, and so much effort Prabhupada has to take to stress that, which might sound so obvious, like, but unfortunately, it's not okay, and unfortunately it's not okay with a lot of people that are so-called prominent thinkers, as it were, and philosophers, and who have therefore obviously ruined this type of thinking, you know, who is the absolute truth and this. So he has to keep hammering it, you know. These people are just a bit silly.
Yeah, I guess you're fortunate in that sense that you were brought up in a family of personalists and not impersonalists. But even myself, I remember, I'm not even sure where I got it from. When I was younger, I was definitely trying to read lots of different things and understand spirituality. And I remember saying to my mom once that that I'm God, you're God, we're all God, and she like freaked out. I remember, it kind of stands out to me as one of the times she was most angry. And it was as if, for her, I was like blaspheming God, And so she was like, how can you say that? You're not God. And I was like, yes, I am. I just, it's like I was clearly influenced, probably in a past life, but also to some extent, many of the pseudo-spiritual movements of the West are also like encouraging us to become God, whereas the Krishna conscious philosophy encourages us to become godly, to develop our qualities that are God-like, but not that we become God. Anyway, very powerful. Next paragraph. Actually, one who is self-realized engages himself in the service of the Lord perpetually, both in this life and in the next life. Indeed, for devotees, there is no difference between this life and the next. In this life, a neophyte devotee is trained to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in the next life, he approaches that Supreme Person in Vaikuntha and renders the same devotional service. Even for the neophyte devotee, devotional service is considered Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Devotional service to the Lord is never considered a material activity, since he is acting on the Brahmabhuta platform. A devotee is already liberated. He therefore has no need to practice any other type of yoga in order to approach the Brahmabhuta stage. If the devotee adheres strictly to the orders of the spiritual master, follows the rules and regulations, and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, it should be concluded that he is already at the Brahmabhuta stage. Wow. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayobhya bacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitam brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So yes, this Brahmabhuta stage of realization of Brahman, of Para-Brahman, of the Supreme Lord. In different places, Prabhupada kind of comments on it seemingly a little bit different. Some places it's almost denigrated, that's not a very high platform, it's just a very basic platform, and in other places it seems that it's understood that it's actually quite an advanced level, because, to be honest, it is an advanced level. Most of the people in the world don't understand this nature of becoming godly, and also understanding acting on the Brahmabhuta platform. It means I perform my activities while remembering Krishna. This morning Mother Irmala was giving class, and she was also discussing, she has a book that she worked on with someone called Krishna Meditations, taking all the different examples, or not all of them, but many different examples from the Gita and also Bhagavatam, where Krishna explains you can see me in so many different ways in the material world. What were some of the things? Do you remember some of the things she was talking about?
Is this like a test?
No.
Drinking water.
Yeah, that's the one everyone remembers. Rasoham apsakunteya, that I am the taste and word.
Air, the life air.
the life air. Yeah, Krishna says, I am the air. The air of life is my own life air, my own prana. So when just by breathing we can remember Krishna is that life air.
Yeah, because she said when you take a deep breath or any breath, then you're taking the air in. So then Krishna, in the form of that air inside of you, you can think of like that.
Yeah.
So he's like sustaining you because he is the life air.
Yes. And water, we can't live without water.
Mm-hmm.
But, trying to take a whole day, she gave this nice example at the end, which is that, like you can try in a day to meditate on these things, like Krishna is the light of the sun and the moon. So to keep being conscious, oh yeah, God, it's daylight, that's Krishna. Mm. Or, oh, that's Krishna, or I'm drinking water, that's Krishna. But what happens is you start, but then you just get on with the day, and you start to realize how deeply unconscious we actually are. We're not often very conscious or conscientious of things around us. So that's the Brahmabhuta stage. That's acting on the platform of understanding Krishna's presence in my life, in everything, ultimately. But, yeah, I like that. Okay, shall we... Let's see, yeah, we got time to read another one, I think.
Text 10. Maharaj Prithu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles, 24 hours daily. Thus, his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, developed and became unflinching and fixed. The word Bhagavatam indicates that the religious process practiced by Maharaj Prithu was beyond all pretensions. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Projita Kaitavotatra, religious principles which are simply pretentious are actually nothing but cheating. Bhagavatam is described by Vairagya Acharya as...
Vairagya?
Oh, no, sorry. I need to get the Specsavers. Bhagavatam is described by Veera Raghava.
Well, if you can go to Specsavers and get some glasses that automatically translate Sanskrit.
I'm not seeing it.
Otherwise, you're reading pretty good. Everything else is whenever you get to the Sanskrit part.
Okay.
That?
May I continue? Veera Raghava Acharya. I already said it. As everyone knows, I already said it.
If you thought she said it, you put it in there.
No, I repeated it.
I'm just trying to drive engagement.
You're just driving me mad. So, Veera Raghava Acharya as Nivritta Dharmina, which indicates... I'm from South London. Which indicates that it cannot be contaminated by material aspiration.
Right.
As described by Srila Rupa Goswami. Anyabhilashita shunya jnana kamadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakte uttama. It's not patronising in the least. I did Bhakti session before. When one is not inspired by material desires and is not contaminated by the processes of fruitive activity and empiric speculation, fully engages in the devotional service of the Lord.
Favorable service.
Wow. His service is called Bhagavatam, or pure devotional service. In this verse, the word Brahmani does not refer to the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal Brahman is a subordinate feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And since impersonal Brahman worshippers desire to merge into the Brahman effulgence, they cannot be considered followers of Bhagavatam. After being baffled in his material enjoyment, the impersonalist may desire to merge into the existence of the Lord, but a pure devotee of the Lord has no such desire. Therefore, a pure devotee is really Bhagavatam. So what I took away from this, because when I was reading the verse, Maharaj Prithu is engaged completely in devotional service. He's following all the rules and regulations strictly. It says 24 hours daily, and it says his love and devotion unto Krishna developed, and it became unflinching and fixed. So even just from that verse, even though Prabhupada in the purport, again, for all the misguided people, has to stress, you are not God, for heaven's sakes, even though he has to keep stressing that, But what I got from the verse was, hold on a minute, how did we get here? And we got here because Indra basically acted very silly and tried to mess about with a horse sacrifice, and Vishnu had to come down and say, anyway, let it go. When you have, like we were saying, when you have a sibling and it's like, anyway, that one's a bit silly, so you be the mature one, and he was the mature one. And I was thinking, because I don't agree with that pastime and it annoys me, but so many millions of years later, but Maharaj Prithu, with a test where, to be fair, he could have been like, what is that? Because that, some of you may have even experienced this in your spiritual life, where you see people continue and appear like they don't get a little transcendental slap or otherwise, and they do go on and things are cool and this and that. And the lesson I was getting when I was reading that verse was, look what he went on to do. He weren't cool, he was spoken to by Brahma, and Vishnu came and this. And you can't, it's almost like you brush yourself off and then, well, this is what I'm here for, and this is the goal and this is the determination. And that, it's not even that he's even keeps mentioning it. He had darshan of the four Kumaras. He could have said, look, I'm trying to understand, because it's different when your guru's there and you're on your best behaviour, and he's like, when your guru says, behave yourself, and that one's a bit of a wally, so just behave yourself. But then the guru leaves, and it doesn't mean it's all settled here to the degree that we're spiritually strong, I guess. So you may still speak to your fellow peers or otherwise visiting sadhus. So in this case, the visiting sadhus of the four Kumaras, he could have said, look, I'm trying to get my head around this. I don't feel good, but he doesn't. If anything, he takes the nectar of what these visiting sadhus are saying and he goes on to realign himself and be very fixed, and we'll see, actually go back to Krishna basically. And so then it makes you think, yeah, that is, it's interesting, because you remind yourself of where we came from with Prithu Maharaj and that whole very famous pastime, actually, to this now where it doesn't come up, and he's just moved on, and he's just he's. So then, whereas Indra's gone back to the heavenly planets, and as we know in the Bhagavatam, there's so many different crazy pastimes he gets involved in. How many times he has to get slapped by Krishna, and this, that, and the other.
Sometimes they're different Indras, but it's the principle that in that post, because Indra is not just a person; it's a post, the same as Brahma.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah. All right. But anyway. So the point is, regardless of what you just said, anyway? No, the point is that despite having such a spiritual challenge, faith testing challenge, we see that where he's ended up, which is not, well, whatever happened to that Prithu? Because we see that people live in the ashram or outside the ashram. Whatever happened to that person? I don't know, or he works down Sainsbury's, or what's the equivalent here, Walmart or something, but he actually is glorious, and that's why he got so much space dedicated to him in this fourth canto, for heaven's sakes, and he will go back to Godhead, as we'll see. And it's like he actually strengthened his focus on Krishna. It's quite a lesson, quite a lesson, because he was out there and he was getting like Olympic gold, as it were, the equivalent, with these horse sacrifices. And someone comes along, and it was out of envy, and it was out of just, oh, you can't do that, I'm going to do that. Yeah. It was like, what? And still, you could say no one had his back, as it were. It's like, anyway, let it go. That's what he's like. But I'm just saying, that my point is how inspiring it is that, he's just going deeper and deeper into his Krishna consciousness, and hasn't derailed him. He's taken advantage of these visiting sadhus, these Kumaras, and churning nectar, how to be fixed. That's, and we all get challenges. That's the point. We'll get tests, we'll get challenges. And so it's quite an interesting lesson, because time moves on. So where are you going to go, What are you going to do? I ain't saying that, I do that and it's easy, but I'm saying that's what I got out of this.
Interesting. So last paragraph, and then we'll conclude. It is clear from this verse that Maharaj Prithu was never a worshipper of the impersonal Brahman, but was at all times a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavati Brahmani refers to one who is engaged in devotional service to the Personality of Godhead. A devotee's knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is automatically revealed, and he is not interested in merging into the impersonal Brahman. Maharaj Prithu's activities in devotional service enabled him to become fixed and steady in the discharge of devotional activities without having to take recourse to karma, jnana, or yoga. So, it seems that, following on from what you were saying, that we see the method of transcending is to not give up devotional service no matter what. So you just keep, and that goes back to the verse that was quoted earlier. What was it? Brahmano Mamcho. Yeah, Mamcho Yabhyabacharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate. That one who's unfailing in the performance of devotional service. It doesn't mean, and there are places where Prabhupada explains, that doesn't mean that there won't be slip-ups or challenges or difficulties or times when you want to give up or whatever. But you come back and you keep going. Just like when you're chanting, it doesn't mean, we're trying to chant with with a focused mind and attention, but the mind drifts. So the thing is that that's going to happen, but to pull it back to the holy name and keep trying day after day after day and to not give up. The success is in the trying. It may not necessarily be in the achievement of the perfection that we're aiming for, but the fact that we continue to try for it, that in and of itself is success. So like that. Okay, so we'll finish here, I think. Yeah? Anything else from your side?
No.
All right. So thank you all very much. Please like,
Comment,
subscribe.
share.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.